Hello, you're listening to Hugo Talks. Now, I'm sure a lot of you out there are familiar with the name Tiffany Dover and that story. Now, just in case you're not, Tiffany Dover was the nurse who fainted after getting the jib jab live on TV right at the start. I believe it was January 2021. She then made an appearance on the same live show moments later after she fainted, saying she was okay and that she fainted all the time. Then after that, she disappeared. She had a very busy social media profile up until then, but after that event, she basically disappeared online. She didn't post anything. Rumours started spreading online that she might be dead. There was a clip of her supposedly of her at the hospital on the steps wearing a mask, but there was nothing said. And people seemed to think that this did not look like her. And months went by and the rumours continued. Members of the family came online and said she was not dead. But from her, there was silence. There was a death certificate, if I recall, that was put around, but the fact checkers said it was fake. Then many months later, there was a post on her Instagram account of scenery with the caption, "See you on the other side," or something cryptic like that. Again, it didn't prove that she was alive to those out there who were claiming she was dead. All it proved was that someone was using her Instagram account, as there was no footage of her or any photographs or any mention of what happened to her. And here we are now, 15 months later, and now we have this podcast on NBC, a huge mainstream media platform. It's called Tiffany Dover is Dead, ? And it claims to debunk any rumours of Tiffany Dover being dead. It's 5 episodes long, over 3 hours of this in total, with the narrator possibly having one of the most annoying voices I've heard in a long time, claiming that in these 5 episodes she will finally clear this story up, and how this is proof of how dangerous misinformation can be spread by the so-called truthers. And guess what? She doesn't find anything that proves definitely that she is alive. Now, I haven't watched all of this. I just couldn't listen to the voice for that long a time. But I've skipped through it, I've read the details of each episode, and by the end of it, she can't prove she is alive. And she can't prove she is dead because she never actually meets her. She goes to her house. She never sees her. She waits outside the hospital where she supposedly is working, but she never sees her arriving or leaving. She meets family members who say Pfizer made her sign an NDA, a non-disclosure agreement, which is the excuse they're using for why she hasn't made an appearance or given an interview, although, it shouldn't stop her by saying, "Hello, I'm alive, everybody." I'm sure she could be able to do that. The show finishes with this so-called investigator talking to a conspiracy theorist who she goes to give this evidence to prove how she is right. The conspiracy theorist tells her, well, hold on, you haven't actually seen her, you haven't met her, you haven't spoken to her, so you haven't actually found her, so you cannot prove she is alive or dead. To which she agrees. She says, well, yeah, I couldn't find her. But this mainstream media, fake stream media show is framed as if it's debunking the story. If anything, it's made it worse, because here we see a show by NBC specifically made to debunk a conspiracy theory, and yet the investigator goes to her place of work, goes to her house, and yet she's never ever meets her or sees her, and yet never asks the question to herself, where is she? I mean, it's crazy. I mean, we're living in a very, very strange world. Look here at the video on YouTube of the first episode. Now I've got a plugin that shows the YouTube downvotes. Look how unpopular this video is. 193 upvotes and 2,000 downvotes. And you remember, this is on NBC's YouTube channel. And then we have, look at the two top comments here. It says, "I never believed she died. However, I'm listening to this podcast that is aiming to prove she is alive, and the more I listen, the more I'm starting to think maybe she did, and there was a cover-up. Very strange, the podcast is doing the opposite of what it set out to do. Then we got another comment below. I love how this podcast so effortlessly condescends and psychoanalyzes people who simply have questions about a woman who has been missing going on 2 years. So clearly this debunking podcast isn't working, is it? I mean, 2,000 downvotes, and it's actually making people suspicious who weren't suspicious in the first place. I mean, how can you blame people for asking questions about a young nurse who just vanishes for a year and a half? And now we have an NBC investigation podcast show on a mainstream media channel, and they can't find her. They've never seen her in the show, and at the end of the show they make out that this is not a little bit odd. I mean, it's crazy. I mean, why wouldn't this person, Tiffany Dover, not just come out and say, hello, I'm fine here. Here's the newspaper. I've got it right here. Here is the date. I'm fine. I'm Tiffany Dover. I'm alive. Now let's just leave me alone, all right? Let's put this to bed. Okay, goodbye. And that would be it. That would be the end of it. Simple. But that hasn't happened, has it? I hear the family talking about an NDA, but surely a non-disclosure agreement can't cover everything, can't make someone have to hide away for a year and a half and not be seen by anybody, can it? And now we even have a mainstream media podcast, 5 episodes, and they can't even show her or get her to do an interview or get her to send a message or send a video or anything. And they spend most of the show telling you it's a baseless conspiracy theory made up by crazy people. It's beyond me, really. I don't know what is going on here, really. But if I had to guess, my theory is that she could have been injured by the jib jab. You don't hear that very often. And that she's been very ill. And any video she would do, then that illness would become obvious. And as stated in this podcast, supposedly there is some form of NDA from Pfizer which stops her talking about the jib jab maybe, and if she was to give an interview, then something may become more clear as to why she's been not seen for so long. I don't know. Is that a possibility? Or is she dead? Or is she alive? And this is just one massive psyop to confuse, distract and disorientate people. It's certainly something we're seeing a lot of these days. Anyway, who knows? But the one good thing is that this podcast and its attack on truthers, or just people who are asking obvious questions, it's an attack that is clearly being seen for what it is. It's transparent, as you can see in the thumbs down and the hundreds of comments deriding this condescending, overlong piece of crap that pretends to prove something but does the complete opposite. As always, thanks for listening. Come and subscribe to hugotalks.com to get notifications of all video uploads, and I'll see you later.